Alright, welcome back. So in this lecture we're going to be resuming where we left off with our palm tree destructible, and we're going to be adding a dissolved material so that when we chop down this palm tree and really any other tree that we add, we're going to make it so that it will slowly fade out rather than just disappearing instantly when it despawns. So let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing that we need to do is we want to go into our content, main, meshes, palm trees. So here's all the different meshes for each of our palm trees, and in here we have the materials. So we need to go in and modify our palm master material and then this M palm leaf. Okay, so first let's start with the M palm master. And so what we need to add in here is we need to add a parameter value that we can use to create some sort of fade effect for this material. So that way it looks like our palm tree is dissolving or despawning. So we want to use this opacity mask value right here. So select first this little node, and we want to go ahead and change this blend mode to mask. So that will allow us to use the opacity mask here. And what we're going to do is really simple. We're going to right click and type in texture sample. And for the texture sample, we're going to use just a built-in texture. So search for noise. And you should have this T noise at 01. If you don't see this in here, you want to go into your content browser and click on the settings and make sure that you click here show engine content. Okay, so make sure that is checked. So now you should be able to see the noise, T noise 01. Okay, so we're going to use this little noise material, and off of this RGB we'll do a add, and we're going to right click at a constant value right here and right click this and click convert to parameter, be named dissolve. So this will control the opacity of this material. Select the parameter here and set a default value as 1. And then off of here we're going to do a cheap contrast, and then just copy this dissolve and paste it again and rename this parameter to contrast and hook that up for the contrast and set the default value of this to 50, and then just hook the result into the opacity mask. Okay, so now if we save this, it will go ahead and compile all these shaders, and if we close out of this, we can open our M palm 01, and so we have these little global scalar parameter values that we created. So if I check this dissolve, you can now see basically what the dissolve does. Okay, so we have a value of 1, and now you can see as it goes closer to 0 we get sort of this dissolved material. So that's all we're going to use. So we're going to use this dissolve value to make it look like this palm tree is despawning. Okay, so we can go ahead and uncheck that and just leave it like that. So the next thing we need to adjust is our M palm leaf. So this will be a little bit more of a different setup because we are already using this opacity mask for these leaves. And so let's go ahead and right click at a texture sample, and for the texture set it to that noise, T underscore noise 01. We're going to drag off here and do a add, and then add a constant and right click that, convert that to parameter. We'll just name this dissolve. We'll set the default value to 1, hook that up for the B, and then we'll take this little opacity mask here and we want to do a lerp or a linear interpolate right here. And so for the A, we want to use this add and hook that up for the A. For the B, we'll use our opacity mask for our palm leaves. And for our alpha, we'll hook up the dissolve for the alpha. And the final output, we're going to hook up to the opacity mask. So go ahead and save that. And it should look exactly the same as what we had before. Now that we close that, we need to right click this M palm leaf and create a material instance. So the reason why we use material instances is because you can modify this little scalar parameter value in real time. And so we will need to go into our palm tree meshes and replace it with this little material. That way we can modify this dissolve value. But if we click this little checkbox here, you can see what the dissolve looks like. Basically sort of fades away and we get the same sort of look. Okay, so now let's go ahead and apply this palm leaf instance real quick to all of our palm trees. So just right click all of these palm trees, and rather than opening every single one, you can just right click this and click edit here, and that will open up every single mesh in the static mesh editor. So let's go ahead and change the palm leaf to our palm leaf instance. Save that. And just quickly swap out that material for our material instance. So now that we've swapped that out, we need to go ahead and set up the logic that will change that value to create that dissolve effect. So go to our main blueprints harvesting system, and we're going to go into our destructibles and into our palm trees. So if you remember, in our previous lecture we created this palm destructible master. So the reason why we did this is because all 5 of our palm trees use the same materials, and so we're going to set up the fading in and out inside of this master. That way we don't have to recreate it in each individual palm destructible class for each palm tree that we have. So go ahead and open up our BP destructible master and click the open full blueprint editor, and let's go ahead and delete this event begin, overlap, and event tick. And off this event begin play, we're going to get our static mesh here. So this is our palm tree, and we're going to create dynamic material instance and hook this up after the event begin play. Make sure that you keep this parent begin play, because this will call all the stuff that we have set up in our destructible tree class. And then for the source material, we're going to set this to our m_palm01. Element index has to do with the material that you have for your palm tree. So if you select the static mesh here or the palm tree, you're going to see that we have under the materials element 0, element 1, element 2. So these elements relate to the material slots. So we'll have to do this for each element or each material slot. We'll have to create this dynamic material instance. And again, this would be a lot easier and more efficient if we just used a single material rather than 5 or 6 different materials like so. Let's go ahead and we need to take this return value, promote this to a variable, and we can just name this to mat0 and select the static mesh and create dynamic material instance. Just copy and paste that again. So we'll have to do this for each material on our palm tree. So hook up the mat to the create dynamic material instance. We'll set this to m_palm02, or the second element. And for the element index, we'll set this to 1. And take the return value, promote to variable, and name this mat1. Then copy these 2 nodes and paste it again. Do the same thing. And change this to index 2. And the next element is m_palm03. So select mpalm03, promote that to a variable, name that mat2. Copy and paste that again, and just change the element index here to 3. And I believe this one is the same material as mpalm03, so you can just leave that as the same. Promote this to a variable, name this mat3. Copy and paste this, hook this up. The next one is array index 4 and mpalm leaf instance. Make sure it's the palm leaf instance. Promote that to variable mat4. Copy and paste this one last time. And again, it would just be a lot better if this was one material, and it'd be a lot more performant rather than having 6 materials. But since all this logic is inside of the destructible class, it won't necessarily matter too much, because this will only be spawned in for maybe 10 to 15 seconds and then it will be destroyed. So it's not really a big issue. Let's go ahead and promote this to mat5. And then what we need to do off of here is we need to basically set the parameter inside of this material instance, inside of all these material instances, based on a sort of tick or a timeline. So we're going to right click and add timeline, and this will be our fade away timeline. And so hook up the execution pin to play from the start, and then double click to open the timeline. We're going to add a new float track, and the timeline, we just need to right click, add a key on here, and basically this timeline outputs a float value on a tick. So we're going to add 2 points on this graph, and it will sort of provide a smooth float value output that we'll use to set our dissolve material parameter. So select this first point here and set the time to 0 and the value to 1, and then right click anywhere else on the graph and add a key. Select that one and set the time to 5 and the value to -1. And if you scroll out, you can select both of these keys by dragging and selecting, and right click and add this auto. So that will add this nice little smooth transition between the two values. Okay. Compile, save that, and we can close out of this timeline. So now you see we have this new track float value. And so off of this update, we can do a set scalar parameter value. And for the collection here, we need to get all of these mat01, mat2, mat3. So get mat01. And it looks like we selected the wrong parameter, set scalar parameter value. So off of this mat01, do set scalar parameter value. And now we can hook up mat1, mat2, mat3, 4, and 5. And hook this up for the update. So the update runs basically on a tick. The parameter name, we want to set this to dissolve, the one that we set inside of our material. And we have this new track float variable that we can hook up for the value. And so it will update that parameter value based on this timeline. Now all we have to do is, for this finished, we want to go ahead and get our static mesh and set visibility to hidden, and hook that up for the finished. Compile, save that. So let's go ahead and test this out. And so our child class, this BP Palm Destructible 2, should have all that logic added inside of it because we added this all to the parent class, so the child class should automatically inherit all that blueprint functionality that we just added. Let's go ahead and click play here. Let's go up to this tree and chop it down. And it looks like it fades out automatically, and I think we may have forgot a material there. So let's go ahead and just double check that real quick. So it looks like I forgot to set this last one to our M-Palm04. So set it like that, and also set the element index to 5 here. And we need to add sort of a delay here. That way it will fade out when the tree is on the ground. So we can just disconnect this and add a delay of about 10 seconds. Compile, save that. So now if we go ahead and play, let's go ahead and chop down this tree. So we'll go ahead and fall down. And we should see the little dissolve here in a second. So it just goes ahead and fades out and then disappears. Now if you wanted to adjust this, you can make it so it takes a little bit longer to despawn or fade out. The way that you'd update that is first you'd go into your destructible tree, and we have this delay to destroy actor. So you could increase that. Another thing that you can use rather than a delay is in your class defaults. You can search for life, and we have this initial lifespan. So basically this is how long in seconds should this actor be alive before it destroys itself. So if you want, you could use this rather than a delay and a destroy actor, and you get the same sort of functionality. Also, if you want to add a longer dissolve time, you can go into this fade away timeline and increase the length here. Maybe you want it to be 8 seconds, and you can take this value and move it all the way to 8. Okay. So that is it for this lecture. Just want to show you guys how to set up that dissolve material, and you can set this up for any destructible or harvestable class that we have. So things like rocks or bushes, you can add the same sort of logic to get that fade out or dissolve effect. So in our next lecture, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to set up our pickaxe item. We're going to import the mesh and model, set up the item class and info. And so with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next lecture.